The first presidential election that I was able to vote in, where I cast my ballot, was in 1968. Any of you from Ohio, if you grew up in Ohio, do you remember those voting machines when we were kids? But when I was a child, the voting machines were these huge, big things that looked halfway between a dry cleaning machine, the thing you use at the dry cleaning, and an iron lung. And you went into this thing, and it was all around you, this big metal thing. And then you had to figure out how to close it. Well, when I was 18, and I was able to vote, I had not had my growth spurt that allowed me to become the towering height that I am now. I was 5'6" at the time. And I could not figure out how to close the machine. So they had to close me in there. Somebody had to come, and they sprang this lever, and the curtains sprang shut behind me, and all you could see were my feet hanging out. So I was in there, and I was picking my, my ballots, and hoping that I was doing the right thing. But I was determined that nobody was going to have to get me out of this machine, because I was an adult, and plus they couldn't come in because it was a private thing, voting, so you had to get yourself out. And this lever was on this thing behind you, and it was, you had to throw it, and I was 5'6", and I wasn't as great shape as I am now because I've been to the gym in 2 weeks. And so I was in there fighting with this thing, trying to get out. And I finally got it to go, but it took so much effort that I launched myself halfway across the polling place coming out. So the curtain flew open and out shot me. So I think they were trying to figure out, maybe we shouldn't let him vote here anymore. 1968, when I voted, was an interesting time in American politics. Many thought that after 1960, Nixon was finished, because he had lost to John F. Kennedy. But in 8 years, some interesting things happened. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And then in 1968, on April 4th, my sister's birthday, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And then 2 months later, on June the 5th, 1968, Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated. Same year that I was casting my vote for the first time. And the United States was in an uproar, inside and out. 3 killings of prominent American leadership in 5 years. The world was looking at America. Some were laughing at America. Some were praying for America. What was happening to our nation? Was democracy itself in danger of being assassinated? Was this the end of this great country, this great experiment? Were the stones of the temple of democracy falling apart? All was bright and glittery in Jerusalem. The people of Jerusalem were so distracted by the beauty of Jerusalem that they could hardly contain themselves. But Jerusalem was just like any other city. People were dying in the streets. Jerusalem had huge social and civic issues. Money had been sacrificed to add balconies and porches and porticos to this great temple so that people could go and hear speakers and engage in all kinds of activities. And even though the poor were not being taken care of, the temple was the pride of everybody's eye. Then as now, very little was given to the poor and the needy. The temple was the center of life. Keep it clean, keep it beautiful. Don't let the Girl Scouts in to use it. Don't let the Alateens in to use it. Don't let the Debtors Anonymous folk in to use it, or the acting classes, or the karate classes, or the Burbank Interfaith Council. No, the temple was just for us. Keep it clean. When we leave the temple, we're going to lock the doors so that it will be just right for us. That was how they worshipped at the temple. What they didn't know was that in 20 short years, as Jesus predicted, every stone of this marvelous temple would be gone. The Jews decided to do an insurrection, but they were part of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire, in a fit of reactionary anger, decided not only to quell the insurrection, they decided to hurt the Hebrews where it would affect them the most. They destroyed the temple. They ripped out their heart. They ripped out their spirit. They ripped out their ability to ever get together and plan anything like this again. How could Jesus predict the coming destruction of the temple with such confidence? How could that be? Well, the simple answer is Jesus was the Son of God, so he knew everything. End of story. It's hard to refute. However, the late Reverend Dr. Fred Craddock, a disciple and a towering disciples minister, reminds us that Luke was written about 20 years after the temple was destroyed. And so Luke, in writing this story, was looking back on what had already happened. So writing from the future, what does Luke want us to look through Jesus' eyes and see coming down the road? What Jesus had predicted and what Luke knows from history is that the people of Judah and northern Israel had withstood the worst that could happen to them, the near destruction of the people of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And yet, a remnant lived to tell about it. And not only did they live to tell about it, but their faith in God through Jesus Christ, and therefore through themselves, to work through the worst thing that could happen to them, through anything, became stronger than ever. What Jesus seemed to be saying in this passage, this pericope, is this: right when it seems that everything has been taken from you, when it seems that all hope is gone, when it seems that you have to start all over again at square one, you've got them right where you want them. Why? Because you've lost everything. You're in the low seat. You're knocked to your knees. When you are knocked to your knees, you are in the perfect position to testify about your faith in God. Do you know how easy it is to tell somebody how wonderful God is when all is going well for you? When you have all of the money that you need? When every candidate that you vote for wins by a landslide? Look how fortunate I am. Look what God has done for me. Look how blessed I am. But when you are at your lowest ebb, and you can still testify to the goodness of God, that's powerful. That is when heaven is free to do heaven's work. That, as one hymnologist wrote, is a story to tell to the nations. Having been at my lowest ebb more than a few times, that's a story I want to hear more about. That's a story that I need to hear more about. Any of you ever hear of an American singer by the name of Tina Turner?
Oh, yeah.
Tina Turner used to sing with her husband Ike. She was very famous. Ike used to beat her very badly, often right before they went on stage. And she would have to go on stage and sing with him. And often she would have to watch while, as she said in her book, he disrespected her with other band members. When she finally had the courage to get away, she was still a world-renowned star, but she was emotionally undone, weeping and crying, unable to sing, unable to do what the world said she was so good at. The only thing Tina Turner said she could do was scrub out the toilets in her faith tradition's bathrooms. So she would crawl and make her way to her place of worship, and she, on her hands and knees, she would scrub floors and wash toilets and wash sinks because she felt that's all that she was good for. Until the divine touched her and she began to see that God loved her right where she was. It's the same with you and me. You and I have felt so bad for ourselves during this last few months that our northern neighbor, Canada, created a website for Americans. Did you know that? It's called #Tell America How Great You Are. And if you type that in, you'll read some wonderful, encouraging remarks. You're really great, America. You've always been so diverse and so accepting. You have taught the world how to live together, America. America! You gave over $250 billion away to charity to the rest of us around the world each year. America! Just hang in there and breathe. Wherever you find yourself right now, winner or loser, you are in the perfect place to be determined, decisive, diligent, and most of all, devout. Right where you are. Make up your mind in your being to live your life, every minute of it, so that in you people will see that all have equal worth in the eyes of God. You see, with God there is no glass ceiling. Women as well as men, short as well as tall, LGBT as well as straight, single mothers as well as married families, Mexicans as well as Guatemalans and Asians and African Americans and Angelos, differently abled as well as able-bodied people, people of all religions are all precious to God. We are called as never before, regardless of what we believe and who we voted for. That doesn't matter. We are called now to be mindful of what we can do. If you go to Panda Express and the clerk asks you to give an extra $1 for orphans, give it. If you go to Petco buying cat food and the clerk wants to know if you will contribute an extra couple of bucks so that animals can be neutered instead of just being put down because they have no home, give it. It's $2. As Joan asks us every month, take one Saturday and serve at the Lord's Kitchen right here in Burbank. Volunteer at BTAC. Go with the Regional Christian Church to Tijuana to build a home for a homeless family in 24 hours. I want to tell you about two churches that are disciple churches. The Casa de Oración and the Iglesia de Todas. Oración is in San Francisco, and they have been busy finding jobs for immigrants. Iglesia de Todas is right across the border in Tijuana. They meet people who get dropped off because they're deported and all they have is the shirt on their backs. And they work back and forth with each other to make sure that whatever side of the border you are on, there is welcome at the welcome table, and there is food, and there is housing, and the things that you need to live happen. You and I can participate in that kind of mindfulness. There was a show on Broadway a few years ago called You're Perfect, Now Change. It was Broadway comedy, and it didn't do very well. Your life and my life is serious business. Give thanks to God, thanking God that God made us to God's pleasure. God cares for us just the way we are. Whether you are puffed up or whether you are knocked down, you are still a part of God's endless imagination. Whether you stand tall or you are knocked flat, you are the centerpiece in God's endless masterpiece.